She had grown accustomed to the weight of responsibility, to shoulder burdens alone, but with Enzo, it felt different, compounding and electrifying. Maybe, he started, pausing to consider his next words carefully, but it's dangerous. We're not just hunting them, we're the prey now. His admission hung in the air like a faint echo of a distant gunshot, sending a chill down Tanja's spine. She couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. She glanced around, her instincts sharper than ever, every shadow seeming to breathe as the darkness embraced the environment. "Let them come," she replied defiantly, her voice steady, revealing a glimpse of the tenacity simmering beneath her surface. "I'm not afraid." "You should be," he said, taking a step closer, the heat radiating between them palpable. "Fear is what keeps us alive, Tanja." His eyes flickered, deep with unyielding sincerity that made her heart flutter against her ribcage. Outside the warehouse, a rustle interrupted the thickening tension, casting both of them into a state of heightened alertness. Tanja's gaze darted instinctively towards the source. "Did you hear that?" "Yeah," Enzo murmured. He moved closer to her, the space between them collapsing, their bodies almost touching, their breaths synchronized with the palpable anxiety rising like smoke in the night air. "I'll cover you," he insisted, determination seeping through. Yet, the underlying vulnerability in his stance reflected something deeper. "Just be careful." Tanja nodded, appreciating the layers of concern etched across his features. They both knew the stakes. This wasn't a routine night. A dangerous storm was brewing on the horizon. But the thrill of the chase, of being so close to the truth, pushed them relentlessly ahead. As they inched deeper into the warehouse, an uneven sound drew nearer. In a swift motion, she pulled a compact handgun from the duffel, her senses alight. The echoes of the past, those traumatic moments when she had been utterly vulnerable, flashed before her. But this time, with Enzo at her side, she felt a flicker of something different, hope. "Ready?" she whispered, anticipating the moment before the storm. "Always," he replied, an unyielding grin breaking the tension. Just as the statement left his lips, a pair of figures emerged from the shadows, laughter ringing out like a battle cry, disarming the charge that had charged the air moments before. "Looks like we found you first," one of the figures shouted, charging toward them, fists raised. "Good one." Enzo chuckled, adrenaline spiking as he moved to protect Tanja, reflexes honed from years of dedication to their lives as detectives. Tanja couldn't help but admire Enzo. His bravery in the face of danger pulled her closer, igniting an urge to reach for more than just survival. But in a heartbeat, fight or flight took precedence. The playful banter of foes turned swiftly into a chaotic dance of dodges and punches as they both took their positions. Tanja struck first, her movements merging strength with grace. Each blow was not just to subdue, but to reclaim the control they had lost. Enzo fought alongside her, their rhythm harmonizing as they played through the taut silence, laughing amid flying fists and dark intentions. The moment was electric, the buzz of combat mixing with their camaraderie, forging an invincible connection. Even amid chaos, there was a beauty in their alignment, their synergy, a romance igniting under the barrage of adrenaline and palpable danger. With one final heave, Tanja sent an opponent sprawling, the clang of metal against concrete echoing thickly. She turned towards Enzo, breathless, a challenge gleaming in her eyes. "Was that fear I saw back there?" His brow arched, humor and pride woven through his voice. "Fear? Nah, just being protective." "Yeah, right," she teased, unable to hold back a grin. But as the laughter faded, Tanja's heart raced, the realization settling in. In this wild game of shadows, they had transformed from hunters to hunted, yet together they embodied strength, hope, and something beautifully dangerous. The bond between them only deepened as they prepared for the next fight, hearts racing, ready to face whatever came next. "Let's go," Tanja urged, and he nodded, determination sparking anew. With that, they stepped into the darkness, together, ready for whatever lay ahead. Scene 94, Enigma of the Past. The clinking of glasses punctuated the lively chatter in the bar, a cozy establishment tucked away in the heart of the city. Tonja Coleman and Enzo Arnau sat at a corner table, their conversation festering beneath a veneer of pleasantries. The overhead track lights bathed them in a warm glow, but the charged air between them crackled with tension. "Where did you even get that information?" Enzo leaned forward, his eyes narrowing, the muscles in his jaw tightening, his usually playful demeanor muted under the weight of an unspoken fear. I thought we agreed to keep this within our team. Tonja's gaze flickered away, scanning the room. Her breath caught slightly when her eyes landed on a familiar silhouette at the bar. A wave of memories crashed over her, and she fought to suppress the surge of emotions. It's complicated, she said, her voice steady but laced with an underlying quiver. Complicated? Enzo echoed incredulously, a hint of a laugh escaping before he caught himself. Complicated usually means there's something you're not telling me. Tonja felt the warmth of his words and the bite of his accusation at the same time. She looked back at him, the weight of her past stifling. You think I'm hiding something? She crossed her arms defensively, her posture shifting as she met his gaze head-on, steel in her eyes. His eyes darkened momentarily, and the tension thickened. If you're pulling strings with people from your past, don't you think I deserve to know why? Before she could respond, the figure at the bar turned, revealing a striking woman with locks of dark curls framing her face. Sienna, a ghost from Tonja's past. A cocktail rested elegantly in her hand, and she surveyed Tonja with a knowing smile, a predator's glint in her eye. Tonja, is that you? Sienna called out, her voice rich and melodic, slicing through the din of the bar. Tonja's heart raced, a visceral punch to her gut. The last time she had seen Sienna had been amid a whirlwind of secrets, promises broken, and unresolved tension. Don't, Enzo warned, his voice dropping, an urgent whisper that held the weight of 1,000 worries. His hand reached across the table, palm open as if to shield her from the past. You don't have to engage. But the choice had already been made. Sienna. Tonja replied slowly, her voice wavering, burdened by the acknowledgement of their shared history. Sienna sauntered over, each stride confident, as if she owned the very air between them. I haven't seen you in years. You look, she paused, scanning Tonja's face for cracks. Invincible. I'm doing fine, Tonja replied curtly, trying to maintain control of her composure. She could feel Enzo's eyes boring into her, an anchor in the storm she found herself in, yet the thrumming pulse of their unaddressed issues lingered like an unresolved chord. Still solving the world's problems, I see, Sienna teased, a slight smirk curling her lips. Then her gaze shifted to Enzo, appraising him with a scrutinizing stare that made the air between them tangibly charged. And clearly not alone. Enzo straightened, his demeanor shifting, his protective instincts flaring. We're busy, he said with an edge, drawing the line. No need to catch up, Sienna. But Sienna's laughter came effortlessly, the kind that echoed with arrogance. Busy? Or avoiding something a little more exhilarating? Tonja tightened her grip on the table, the grain digging into her palm, a physical reminder of her roots amid the chaos. There's nothing exhilarating about stirring up old flames, Sienna. She shot back, her voice sharper than she intended. Is that so? Sienna's voice dripped with milk thistle sweetness. Sometimes old flames are merely reminders of who we are, if not who we could have been. With difficulty, Tonja tore her gaze away from Sienna, focusing back on Enzo. Their dynamic pulsed between them, a silent war of understanding and accusation. Tonja could see the hurt creeping into his expression, the jealousy that came with uncharted territory. She could feel the walls beginning to crack. Sienna, she said, her voice steadier, what do you want? Sienna leaned closer, her posture inviting yet predatory, and whispered, to help you remember who you used to be. Maybe I don't want to remember, Tonja replied, her pulse racing. The emotional pull was magnetic, yet she glanced at Enzo's clenched fists across the table, the mixture of longing and reluctance feeding a fire that threatened to consume her rationality. Standing up, Tonja closed the distance to Sienna. I've lived through the past, and I'm focused on right now, on what matters. The intention in her voice blurred the lines, passion rising like smoke between them. Sienna's smirk tempered. Very well, but be careful, Tonja. You're not the only one with hidden talents, she said, her voice gentle, yet there was an edge of menace entwined in her playful demeanor. Tonja turned, moving back to Enzo, a fragile tether mottled with uncertainty and a heated urgency. We need to talk, she whispered, the words barely escaping her lips, a plea laced with both longing and fear. Why does it feel like your past is trying to take your future? Enzo's voice trembled, a whisper pregnant with danger and something deeper, a vulnerability she struggled to understand. Because it is, Tanja replied, facing him. The crackle of their energy was undeniable now. But I won't let it. As they stood inches apart, the energy surrounding them sizzled with potential. They needed to decide where their love began and where their fears would end. Scene 95. Reflections of the Soul. The air was thick with an electric tension as Tanja stood on the balcony of her high-rise apartment, the sprawling cityscape of Atlanta twinkling like a field of stars below. A gentle breeze rustled through her curls, and the familiar scent of magnolia petals drifted in from the garden below. With her back turned to the living room, she could hear the hushed commotion behind her, punctuated by the infrequent clinks of wine glasses and the low hum of laughter among her friends gathered for a celebratory dinner. Are we ever going to talk about what happened? Enzo's voice cut through the festive atmosphere like a knife, filled with an urgency that pulled Tanja from her thoughts. His silhouette, strong and imposing, filled the doorway as he stepped outside, his brows drawn tightly together, an acknowledgement of the turbulence that lay between them. She turned slightly, her heart thudding against her ribcage, uncertain of the weight of this conversation. Talk about what? She deflected, her voice steady but laced with an underlying current of anxiety. She focused on the expansive skyline, avoiding the intensity of his gaze. The city had felt like a constant cycle of chaos, every crime scene an echo of her past. But now it was also where justice thrived, a dichotomy that both fascinated and tormented her. Enzo took a step closer, the soft sound of his dress shoes muted against the wooden floor. You can't dodge it forever, Tanja. The truth is right in front of us. Tanja shook her head, the tension in the air thickening. I'm not dodging anything. I made my choices. We're not the only ones affected by this mess. A moment of silence stretched between them, heavy and loaded, as moonlight danced on Enzo's chiseled features. He swallowed hard, his voice softer now, laden with emotions he often guarded closely. That's exactly it. You act like you're alone in this, but you're not. I know we're tangled in something bigger. Yet what? She challenged, spinning to face him fully, arms crossed defiantly. Her emerald eyes glimmered, but held a fire that mirrored the city's glow. You think being a detective means I'm impervious to blame? It doesn't mean I won't wrestle with what we've uncovered, with the shadows behind Ishmael. His jaw clenched, and he stepped closer, the distance shrinking, a magnetic pull neither could resist. I don't think that. He paused, running a hand through his dark hair, frustration lacing his voice. I never wanted this to turn us against each other. The reality of their situation hung heavy in the air, unspoken truths, simmering jealousy, and a longing that danced beneath their arguments. All around them, the laughter of friends continued, unaware of the storm brewing just beyond the threshold. Ishmael isn't the enemy you think he is, Tanja said, her voice softer now but carrying an urgency. He was there at the beginning, and now he's part of this mess, like it or not. Part of your mess, Enzo retorted, his voice sharp as glass, but then his expression softened, revealing vulnerability. You're drawn to him, even when you know he's been playing both sides. Tanja took a breath, the realization stingy against her heart. It's not that simple, Enzo. I can't just sever ties. If he's mixed up in this, I need to know why. The tension shifted, morphing into something more intimate as their gazes locked, unspoken feelings wrapping around them like a shroud. Enzo's voice dropped to a whisper, filled with longing and desperation. But at what cost? I can't lose you to this darkness. With delicate precision, Tanja stepped closer, her heart aching with the emotional distance they'd created. You won't lose me. I'm right here. He brushed a thumb against her cheek, the touch sparking a warmth that enveloped them both, swirling with their complex connection, part tension, part desire. I need to trust you, but you have to trust me too. A silence fell again, but this time it was laden with promise. Tanja closed her eyes briefly, inhaling the scent of wildflowers in bloom, hope mingling with uncertainty. We can do this together, Enzo. It just requires us to be open. As the city buzzed below, a sense of resolve sparked between them. Then let's not flinch, Enzo said, his voice wrapping around her like a protective embrace. No more secrets. Tanja opened her eyes, a fire igniting deep within. Agreed, but we face this head-on together." They stood, inches apart, the rhythm of their hearts resonating, aware that their journey had only just begun, yet resolute in facing whatever shadows lay ahead. "Yes, together," he echoed, determination threading through his words. The rhythm of the night embodied their shared promise, their resolve intertwining as they faced both the light and dark within their entwined lives. Scene 96, Final Confrontation. The rain fell like a relentless drumming on the pavement of the desolate warehouse district, each drop echoing the turmoil of Tonja Coleman's heart. She stood beneath the cold glow of a flickering streetlight, her athletic figure silhouetted against the downpour. The air was thick with tension, an electric charge that mirrored the chaos in her mind as she prepared for the impending confrontation with the crime syndicate that haunted her investigation. Shadows lurked, lurking like ghosts of the past, heavy with secrets and betrayals. Ahead loomed an abandoned warehouse, its shattered windows a portal into darkness. The scent of rust and decay wafted in the air, mingling with the earthy aroma of rain-soaked asphalt. Tonja felt the weight of her psychic abilities stirring within her, the familiar sensation of emotions tingling at the edges of her consciousness. But tonight, they were not just her tools, they were her armor. "Are you ready?" Enzo Arnaud's voice broke through the storm, rich and steady as he approached, his eyes glimmering with determination. Tonja turned to him, her heart racing at his proximity. "We have to be cautious. They know we're coming." Enzo's hand brushed against hers, a brief, electric jolt that sent a cascade of warmth through her. "We faced worse. Together." Together. The word lingered between them like a promise. Tonja glanced at him, taking in the soft curve of his lips, the way the rain made his dark hair cling to his forehead. There was a magnetic pull, an unspoken rhythm between them, as if their souls were entwined in the delicate dance of anticipation and fear. She could sense the tide of longing inside her, battling with the weight of the danger ahead. As they entered the warehouse, the scene shifted. Metal clashed with the ominous thuds of their footsteps, and the air buzzed with the palpable energy of confrontation. Tonja's eyes adjusted to the dim light, revealing a crowded heart of shadows. Figures moved stealthily, whispering in conspiratorial tones veiled by darkness. The heavy bass of muffled voices reverberated, echoing her own racing heart. Suddenly, from the corner of her eye, she spotted Ishmael Devereaux, his brooding silhouette unmistakable. He stood at the core of the tension, the strategist of this lethal game, their eyes locked, an electric connection igniting between them, igniting uncharted territories of emotions buried beneath the surface. "Tonja," he said, voice low and magnetic, but all business. "They're ready for you. You're not just a detective to them, you're a threat." "Perhaps I'm both," she replied, her voice steady as she stepped toward him, the space between their bodies charged with unspoken truths and desires. She could see the shadows of conflict behind his eyes, and it drew her deeper, more than the danger surrounding them. Enzo moved closer, placing a protective hand on Tonja's back, his gaze flickering between them. "We need to move." In a heartbeat, chaos erupted. Gunshots rang out, slicing through the tension, ricocheting off the walls. Sounds of shattering glass punctuated the air like a twisted symphony. Without pause, Tonja dove to the ground, instincts kicking in as she pulled Enzo down beside her. "Stay low," she shouted above the cacophony, adrenaline coursing through her veins. Around them, the air crackled with gunfire as the syndicate's men emerged from the shadows, their faces obscured by masks, their intentions lethal. The warehouse transformed into a battleground, the once quiet space a furious storm of action and lack of control. "Go," Tonja cried, her athleticism propelling her forward. She sprinted toward cover, dodging bullets as they whizzed past with menacing precision. Enzo was right beside her, his movements fluid as they maneuvered through the chaos, a well-rehearsed duo of power and instinct. "On my mark," Enzo shouted as they came to a halt behind a stack of crates, the rain outside now a distant memory. With unwavering determination, Tonja felt her powers igniting, the ability to read the history of the criminals she touched, and the sense of their fear blooming around her. She wouldn't let betrayal dictate her future. "We'll bring them down together," she said, her gaze never wavering from Enzo's intent face. His response was a simple nod, the weight of unsaid things hanging in the air as Tonja felt the world narrowing around them. She leaned in, close enough to feel the warmth radiate from him despite the chaos. "Promise me, no matter what it takes." "I promise," he whispered firmly, yet the spark of tension lingered, drawn taut between them. The moment teetered on the precipice of revelation. Just then, a flash from the doorway heralded the arrival of their enemies, the syndicate's leader stepping forth as if he owned the night. "Detective Coleman," he sneered, "you've come to the wrong neighborhood." Tonja steeled herself, adrenaline pulsing through her as her mind raced through strategy. It was more than a battle of bullets. It was about the truths hidden beneath layers of lies. Enzo shifted closer, readying for the impending storm. The air simmered with anticipation as Tonja caught his gaze, lingering a moment longer before they turned to face the darkness together. In the face of imminent danger, their lips barely brushed, an unspoken vow sealing the uncertain night with promise. A kiss that had been building since their paths first crossed, so close to converging, just before the world around them shattered into chaos. But as the tumult rose, the kiss faded into the distant storm, leaving only the threat looming ahead, an unforgettable reminder of what was at stake. "Let's finish this," she murmured, resolute and filled with a burning purpose. And with that, they surged forward into the fray, their lives forever altered as the truth of their connection and the dangerous game they played lay ahead. Scene 97. Choices made. The air was thick with humidity, the kind that clung to the skin and suffocated reason. Outside, a tempest brewed, raindrops cascading against the window, mirroring the chaos in the heart of the Devereaux and Coleman investigative agency. Inside, a faint flicker of light cast elongated shadows across the room, illuminating the faces of those who occupied it, each one wrestling with the weight of their decisions. Tonja Coleman stood at the center, her tall, athletic frame tense, golden brown skin glistening under the fluorescent bulbs as if she were lit from within. Ishmael Devereaux leaned against the wall, arms crossed, a look of intense contemplation shadowing his features. His sharp gaze flitted between the turmoil in Tonja's eyes and the faces of their colleagues, trying to gauge the emotional fallout that lay like debris strewn over a battlefield. "Are you going to tell us what's going on, or do we just keep guessing?" Rosie Santana broke the silence, her sparkle dimmed as she scanned the room filled with their team. Sunflower yellow draped over her figure, shoulder-length curls bouncing as she gestured animatedly. "Because we need a plan, not a mystery novel." "Yeah, or do you want us to just stand here?" "I mean, we're not dummies," interjected Marcus, a wiry tech whiz with glasses slipping down his nose. He hunched over a laptop, furiously typing. "We've all seen the clues. Something's off." Tonja inhaled sharply. The room's commotion was overwhelming. "I think we all know what's happened," she replied, her voice steady yet laced with an undercurrent of vulnerability. "Whatever's brewing isn't just another case. It's personal." There was a palpable shift in the atmosphere, a mix of sympathy and indignation. The others knew the implications, having witnessed the tension igniting between Tonja and Ishmael, each moment fraught with unspoken confessions. "I didn't mean for this to happen," Ishmael said, pushing himself off the wall, inches closer to Tonja. "This was all part of a strategy." His tone was firm, but beneath that bravado lay a rawness that made her heart ache and swirl with conflicting emotions. "Part of a strategy?" she replied incredulously, the tension fizzing like a shaken soda can. "You think breaking trust is part of your grand plan? How do we even find our way back from this?" Her voice was elevated, tinged with anger and pain, buoyed by the storm outside that echoed her distress. As Ishmael opened his mouth to respond, a thunderclap roared above, silencing him momentarily. Tonja felt the vibration in her bones as the rain intensified, sheets of water pounding the world outside like an urgent heartbeat, matching her own. "Maybe we don't," he finally whispered, an edge creeping into his words. But when he saw the hurt radiating from her, his resolve faltered. "I never wanted to pull you into this mire, but you do need to know you're stronger than this." Rosie interjected, stepping between them, her expression softening. "Look, we're all adults here. We can either make this wheel turn or fall into the pit of despair. It's not just about you two. It's about us. We need to decide. We team up, fight together, or we drift apart." The silence that followed weighed heavy, the only sound the relentless drum of rain like 1,000 hearts beating in tandem. I'm tired of secrets, Tonja declared, eyes locking onto Ishmael's with fierce determination. Let's stop pretending this is just another case. Your mind games, Ishmael, they're not just strategy. They feel like betrayal. Betrayal? Ishmael shot back, fists clenched, the normally charismatic mask slipping. I didn't betray anyone. I was trying to protect you. Protect me from what? Knowing the truth? She fired, a tempest of emotions swirling in the depths of her voice. Because guess what? The truth always finds a way to the surface. It's not just about you, Tonja, Ishmael shouted, agitated. There are bigger fish to fry. You think I orchestrated this chaos just to hurt you? I wanted to bring you in for a reason. Then let's hear it, Tonja demanded, a passionate fire igniting behind her eyes. I care about you. I never wanted you to find out this way. But you're right, my decisions have consequences. He gripped her shoulders, intensity blazing between them. And that's why we need to decide, do we sink or swim? Together or apart? As the storm raged louder, Tonja's heart fluttered, and for a tender moment the room faded around them. She searched his gaze, seeking the truth behind the walls he built. The electric chemistry between them crackled, a fierce spark that ignited something far beyond the chaos surrounding them. Together she finally breathed, warmth pooling in her chest, the rain around them echoing the work they had to do. If you're all in, he exhaled slowly, then let's make our choices count. Their gazes held, each moment unfurling slowly, the promise of redemption hovering like the tempest above, waiting for them to choose the path ahead. Scene 98, Unfolding Beginnings. A distant rumble of thunder punctuated the tense silence in the small cafe where Tonja Coleman and Enzo Arnaud sat, their table nestled beneath a large window misted by rain. The dim lighting created an atmosphere woven with intimacy, while the rhythmic patter of raindrops formed a soft symphony, mirroring the storm of emotions brewing between them. Tonja leaned forward, her striking eyes locked onto Enzo's, searching for something, an assurance perhaps. Do you ever think about how we got here? She asked, her tone laced with a mixture of nostalgia and curiosity. Enzo absently twisted the coffee cup in his hands, the steam curling up like whispers of their shared past. Do I think about the number of times we almost didn't make it? He chuckled lightly, his voice a warm bass stable against the backdrop of the downpour outside. Every day, Tonja, I wouldn't be here if it weren't for you, or all of that chaos. She nodded, biting her lip, the faintest spark of a smile playing at the corner of her mouth. Chaos has a funny way of revealing what really matters. The flicker of vulnerability in her gaze made Enzo's heart skip, a moment reminiscent of the many times he had found her at her strongest yet most fragile. Maybe we should embrace the chaos more often, he teased, but the smile faded slightly as he looked out into the rain, the memories washing over him like the current outside. But seriously, what does it mean to rebuild? To start fresh? Maybe starting fresh means letting go of what we thought we knew, Tonja replied, her voice low, almost conspiratorial. I can't erase the past, and neither can you, but we can decide together how we want to face the future. A flicker of thunder resonated in the distance, shaking the window just as Enzo's heart tightened with the weight of her words. He leaned closer, the space between them charged with an energy neither had expected. What are you afraid of, Tonja? Everything. Her breath caught, a shiver running through her like the cool breeze that whipped past them. But in that fear, I see clarity. I see you. With an intensity that sent pulses racing, Enzo reached across the table, his hand brushing against hers. The contact was electric, stirring unspoken feelings that lingered beneath the surface. You've always seen me, Tonja, but what do you really want? As rain streaked down the window, Tonja felt an overwhelming pull. She glanced at their hands, their fingers barely touching, and took a steadying breath. I want what we have, but I also want to be brave enough to go deeper. Her gaze fell into his, fierce and yet tender, layers of uncertainty surfacing in the depths of her brown eyes. I'd go anywhere with you, you know that, Enzo murmured, his voice dropping lower, filled with warmth, even into the storm. Just then, a flash of lightning illuminated the cafe, momentarily capturing their faces with luminous intensity. In that instant, the world outside faded. All the noise, the chaos, the danger dwindled to the timbre of their silent communication. Unbeknownst to them, a pair of eyes watched from across the cafe, a shadow lingering just out of focus, listening. Enzo, Tonja whispered, her heartbeat echoing louder than the thunder. Heal with me, Tonja. Let this be a beginning. His fingers intertwined with hers, an anchor amid the brewing tempest. That simple gesture sent heat spiraling through her chest, igniting something dormant and longing. We can't ignore where we've been, she said softly. Maybe not, but we can choose how we move forward, he replied, drawing closer, their breaths mingling in the charged air. In this close proximity, the warmth radiating between them felt intoxicating. Tanja glanced around the cafe, ensuring their moment remained private, before smiling shyly. So tell me, how do we start? Under the undeniable weight of their connection, the cafe, the storm, the world around them faded away. Thunder cracked overhead, and for once they didn't fear the storm. They embraced it, a rush of anticipation building as they leaned into one another, the moment thick with promise. Let's promise to face it together, Enzo said, his eyes glimmering with determination. Agreed, Tanja whispered, sealing their pact with a gentle yet charged kiss, a sweet hint of what lay ahead. As the chaos continued outside, their hearts resounded steadily within, ready to rewrite their own story amid the unfolding beginnings. Scene 99, From Darkness to Light. The late afternoon sun draped a golden hue over the city of Atlanta, illuminating Tonja Coleman's modest but immaculately decorated apartment. Vibrant splashes of emerald green from potted plants contrasted with the deep browns of polished mahogany furniture. The scent of freshly brewed jasmine tea mingled with the delicate notes of vanilla wafting from the nearby kitchen, creating a warm ambiance that beckoned comfort. Tanja stood by her large window, her silhouette etched against the fading light, gazing out over the skyline. For the first time in weeks, a sense of calm settled over her, a counterpoint to the constant adrenaline that had fueled her days as of late. Enzo Arnaud, ever the enigma, leaned casually against the doorframe, arms crossed, his dark curls creating the sun in a halo of soft light. Looks peaceful, doesn't it? Enzo remarked, his tone trailing softly like the breeze outside. Almost deceptive, she replied, biting the tip of her finger absent-mindedly. After everything, it feels strange. He took a step closer, the floorboards moaning softly under his weight. You know, we're more than just a reflection of this city's chaos. We survived it, he murmured, his eyes narrowing slightly as he absorbed her face. Tanja turned, her dark eyes meeting his. Survived, yes, but at what cost? Sometimes I wonder if we're carrying it all back home like dust on our shoes. A silence stretched momentarily, thick with unspoken truths. Enzo took another step toward her, and she felt the urgency in his gaze. You're carrying more than just dust, Tanja. You bear witness to darkness, yes, but you also spark light. Through every trial, you've had the strength to turn the tide. His proximity ignited the air between them, palpable and electric. Tanja rolled her shoulders, a mixture of tension and relief coursing through her. You make it sound beautiful, but it's not all that simple, she said, a hint of hesitation making her voice tremble. I know, he said softly, inching closer until they were just a breath apart. But beauty lies in the complexity. It's okay to acknowledge fear, to feel vulnerable. It doesn't make you weak. She studied him closely. A glimpse of the increasingly familiar warmth in his eyes made her heart pound in a peculiar rhythm that echoed the chaos of their encounters. I wish you could see yourself the way I see you. You hide behind this bravado, thinking it shields you. At least I'm not hiding from you. He countered, and in that fleeting moment, she sensed the walls he'd built around his past begin to tremble, as if he dared to lower them, if only for her. Tanja felt a swell of affection, a gentle wave that coursed through her. You know, sometimes I wonder if you understand the danger inherent in getting too close. An endearing scoff escaped him. Danger, look who's talking. You practically flirt with it every day, the psychic insights, the detective work. You thrive on the edge, and it's one of the things I admire about you. Admire? Really? She gave a teasing smile, but behind it lay an undeniable yearning. I mean it. You've been through hell and back. Navigating your abilities is like participating in a high-stakes game of chess. You've outwitted opponents that most would run from. He paused, his expression growing earnest. But that same strength brings its own set of vulnerabilities. Tanja edged closer, her heart quickening. You have a way with words, she said softly, brushing a finger along the crisp lapel of his shirt, allowing herself this brief intimacy before pulling back. You've seen my darkness. We're both marred by our pasts. What if we're never free of that shadow? Then we embrace it together, he said, his voice low and earnest, swirling with an undeniable pull that threatened to envelop them both in unseen ribbons of connection. With a flicker of courage, Tonja reached up, tucking a loose curl behind his ear. Maybe we can create a new light, one that doesn't feel so heavy. As their gazes locked, the space between them buzzed with unsung confessions and barely concealed desires. Time slowed, the sounds of the city fading into a soft hush, a cocoon of possibility enveloping them. You once told me that strength is rooted in vulnerability, he murmured. And where does that leave us? She whispered, words tumbling like fragile petals in the wind. Right here, my partner, teetering between what we fear and what we long for. Tonja felt the weight of his words spiral into the air around them, the moment both thrilling and terrifying, the beautiful complexity of them woven together in the fierce glow of mutual understanding. Scene 100, honoring the past. The sun dipped low over the horizon, casting an ethereal glow across the abandoned warehouse. Tonja and Enzo stood before. The bricks, long dust-laden and weathered, seemed to breathe with past regrets, clutching tightly to the secrets they bore. Tonja took a deep breath, the scent of rust and old wood mingling with something more poignant memories. Today was not just about the case. It was about coming to terms with the darkness that had carved a shadow over her past. Are you ready for this? Enzo asked, his voice low, reverberating with quiet concern. His eyes, often light-hearted, now carried a weight that struck Tonja deeply. She nodded, the soft rustle of her leather jacket drowned out by the distant hum of the city. I have to be, she replied, feeling the familiar knot in her stomach tighten with every word. I can't let it haunt me anymore. In his typical fashion, Enzo stepped closer, his magnetic presence leaving little room for doubt. He reached out, slipping his fingers through hers, a gesture that felt simultaneously grounding and electrifying. The warmth between them ignited something deep within her, a flicker of strength that flared as they crossed the threshold into the warehouse. Inside, sunlight streamed through cracked windows, illuminating the dust motes that danced like tiny ghosts swirling around them. The air was thick with echoes of conversations long past laughing, plotting, perhaps even mourning. Tanja's eyes narrowed, scanning the remnants of a world that had nearly consumed her. This is where it all began, isn't it? She murmured, part realization, part confronting a fear that had lived in her for far too long. Not all of it, Enzo replied, standing closer, a protective stance that spoke volumes despite his calm demeanor. But everything shifted here. Tanja's heart raced as she approached a particular wall, the one where they had found the last piece of evidence linking a crime syndicate to her old life. She brushed her fingers against the rough surface, remembering the fear, the disillusionment, and the fight she had grappled with ever since. What if I can't do this? She whispered, a tiny tremor in her voice. To her surprise, the words did not reflect weakness, but an unearthing of truths she had buried. You already are, Tonja. Just breathe, Enzo encouraged softly, stepping closer. This is about letting go. His gaze locked onto hers, unwavering and full of promise. For a moment, they stood beside one another, awareness buzzing in the air like a live wire. The silence hung thick, pulsating with unspoken words as the sun dipped lower, casting golden shafts that elicited an otherworldly glow. In that suspended space, Tonja saw the flicker of vulnerability in his eyes, his own past, wrapped in layers he had never fully revealed. Do you ever think about, she began, but the words faltered in a tide of urgency, the weight of the moment pressing down. Only all the time, he replied, a sudden intensity burning in his gaze. But here we are, finding new ways to honor it. Are you sure you want to move forward? Tonja exhaled deeply, feeling the walls that had confined her begin to crumble. She looked up, as if searched for answers in the remnants of her past, and the connection between them crackled like static electricity. I want to be different, with you. Her heart raced as the truth took shape, a burgeoning understanding forever altering their dynamic. Then let's do it together, he said softly. Without thinking, he slid his hand to her cheek, his touch igniting her senses. She leaned into the warmth, savoring the tactile spark between them. Their eyes locked, and suddenly the gravity of the world outside faded away. In that moment, everything shifted. Tanja leaned forward, and he met her halfway, lips brushing softly, a whisper against the chaos of their lives. It was as if they had stepped into a bubble of warmth, the kiss gentle yet electrifying, an exchange of all the fears that had once kept them apart. Time slowed, and all the unspoken things, the fears, the hopes, dissolved into the sweet nectar of that kiss. It was profound and simple, a catharsis, blending their souls until only warmth and safety remained. With a breathless pause, Enzo pulled away slightly, his brow furrowed with unbridled emotion. "This is just the start, isn't it?" "Yes," she whispered, emboldened and ready for the chaos to come. "Yes, it is." Scene 101, adjusting to changes. The relentless rain pelted against the window of the precinct, each drop a muffled reminder of the weight hanging in the air, a heavy mist wrapped around the bustle of the busy station. The chatter and clatter of detectives sorting through mountains of evidence mingled with the uneasy rustling of paper. Tonja Coleman sat at her cluttered desk, fingers playing absently with a freshly opened evidence bag that contained a delicate silver locket that had once invited a world of domesticity into the heart of a chaotic crime scene. She could still feel the remnants of the victim's last breaths brushing against her limbs as visions of terror seeped into her consciousness. "Tonja," Enzo Arnau approached, shaking droplets from his hair, water cascading down like a silver waterfall. The tension radiated from him, urgency coursing through his every movement. "Did you get a chance to look at the stat reports? There's something odd about the correlation between the two recent cases." The lightness in his voice, often a soothing balm, felt heavy today. Tonja glanced up, her piercing brown eyes meeting his. She could read the unspoken, the concern echoing beneath his composed exterior. "I haven't yet, still unraveling the threads from the last scene." She gestured to the locket. "This doesn't make sense. They're all connected, but I just can't see it clearly yet." His brow furrowed as he stepped closer, the scent of his cologne, a woodsy base with a hint of citrus enveloping her. "What do you see?" A shiver danced along her spine, a fleeting glimpse of their past merging into the present. A woman's life interrupted, joy twisted into something nightmarish. Her voice softened, the gravity of the recent crime weighing on her words. "Penny for your thoughts, detective." Ishmael Devereaux materialized behind her, his presence as magnetic as it was unnerving. His piercing gaze flicked between Tonja and Enzo. "Or have you already rendered her case into a fairy tale tragedy?" "Cynical as ever, Ishmael." Enzo shot back, the tension between them sharp as glass. The unspoken rivalry ignited the air, and Tonja felt the cracks deepen. "Just calling it as I see it," Ishmael replied, his tone smooth, almost amused. "Reality can often be more brutal than fiction. Careful now." Tonja's voice sliced through their banter, the warning laced with an underlying tension. "Let's not start your expertise in murky waters. This is a murder investigation, not a chess game." "T'che," Ishmael shrugged, leaning against the doorframe. "But remember, every move has consequences, and sometimes it's a matter of life and death. The clock is ticking, the game is already in play." Tonja frowned, the weight of Ishmael's words gnawing at her thoughts. "You're right, but I need time to figure it out." "And time is precisely what we don't have," Enzo interjected, his voice uncharacteristically urgent. "I mean it, Tonja. If we don't connect these dots soon, we won't just lose the case, we'll lose more." As the rain intensified, the sound became a creeping storm, mirroring the turmoil within. She could sense the tension tightening, but in the precinct as well. "Fine. Let's regroup later and go over everything." "Together?" Ishmael suggested, a hint of challenge shimmering in his smile. "Together," she confirmed, but her voice was tinged with uncertainty. As the conversation drew to a close, the air was thick with unspoken words, secrets unsurfaced. Enzo lingered a moment too long, his gaze searching, seeking. The flickering fluorescent lights seemed to illuminate the vulnerability between them, a veil dissolving as they reached for something deeper than mere partnership. The sizzle of connection ignited as she lifted her hand, the gentle brush of fingers against Enzo's palm sparking something rare and electric. He held her gaze, his eyes revealing an ocean of emotions, a whirlpool of desire and fear. He started but hesitated, uncertainty reflecting in his posture. The moment hung suspended like the raindrops against the glass, full of promise and hesitation, the air virtually crackling with intensity. There, in the heart of the chaos, something shifted, a palpable change. "Meet me later, all right?" Tonja urged, the wet warmth of his palm lingering on her skin like a secret. "There's something I need to show you." "Count on it," Enzo replied, the heat between them simmering as he stepped back, a hint of tension still coursing in the air like an unsung melody. As Ishmael turned to leave, he offered one cocked eyebrow, an enigmatic smile curving his lips. "Be careful, Tonja. Sometimes the biggest revelations come from the murkiness." With his lingering words echoing in her mind, the rain poured even harder, drumming a subtle rhythm of chaos and intimacy against the windshield, a prelude to the storm that loomed both outside the precinct and within her heart. Scene 102. New alliances form. The sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows across the bustling streets of downtown Atlanta. The vibrant colors of street art clashed with the gritty reality of the alley where Tonja Coleman adjusted her jacket, the leather worn but still polished. Her heart raced, a pulse-thumping reminder of the tension building around her. She could feel it, even before her psychic ability whispered the truth. Today would shift everything. "Looks like we're not the only ones on the case," Rosie Santana said, sliding beside Tonja. The sharpness of her friend's tone cut through the air. "We're close." Tonja could sense the voltage humming between them. It crackled with anticipation. From the corner of her eye, Tonja noticed a figure standing just outside the alley's mouth. Ishmael Devereaux leaned casually against the wall. His often brooding demeanor was replaced with an intensity that resonated. She remembered how he'd orchestrated their first meeting, a tangled web of fate and determination. Now he offered a lopsided grin that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Keep your distance, Rosie," Tonja warned, her voice low and edged. "We don't know where his loyalties lie." "I thought we were past that," Rosie replied, folding her arms defiantly, her dark curls cascading down to frame her face. The faint scent of her jasmine perfume hung in the air, mingling with the stale smell of the alley. Tonja shook her head, feeling the emotional weight as she stepped closer, closing the gap between them and throwing caution to the wind. If only she could trust this growing connection with Ishmael, if only she could unveil his true intentions. "What do you want, Ishmael?" she asked, her tone firm despite the burgeoning heat that simmered just beneath her skin. "The syndicate is repositioning. I have new information," he said, his voice smooth, unfaltering. "But it comes at a price." "A price?" Tonja echoed, skepticism lacing her words. She could see through his charm, the way he danced just beyond her reach. "Oh, please, don't act like you wouldn't consider it," he countered, leaning slightly closer, enough for her to catch the clean scent of cedar and musk. "We both know the stakes of this game are escalating." Rosie watched the two, her eyes flickering with a mix of concern and interest. Behind her, a group of young men laughed raucously, the cheerful banter stark against the tension. In the chaos of the city, they were barely notable, but it brought a sense of levity to the weighty confrontation. "Are you seriously going to take him at his word?" Rosie interjected, anxiety threading her voice. "This is the same guy who—" "I know," Tonja cut in, her expression hardening. "But if he's right, we might expose a lot more than we bargained for." The revelation felt like a thin ice beneath her. Ishmael knows things we don't. She could see the flicker of something behind Ishmael's eyes, an acknowledgement, perhaps a hint of vulnerability that surprised her. He straightened, clearly calculated in his mannerism. "Find out what you can, but don't expect me to play nice. This is bigger than either of us." A stony silence hung between them, like an unspoken pact. Their connection pulsed, electric and ambiguous, stretching across the gap of distrust. Each stood on the precipice of decisions that could redefine their lives, torn between the fevered chase for justice and the temptation of a dangerous alliance. "I'm not doing this for you," Tonja stated, her breath catching as their gazes locked. The air thickened, charged with tension. "I need justice, not ambiguity." But beneath that resolve, a truth pulsed. Her reliance on him had grown unexpectedly, as had a deeper longing. Ishmael's silhouette hovered close, each nuance in his expression beckoning to her. Just as the world around them faded, she envisioned their connection driving forward into a future still lined with shadows. A cacophony erupted as a loud crash broke the moment, jolting everyone back into reality. Rosie rolled her eyes. The universe really knows how to time drama, she remarked dryly, her spirit unyielding amidst chaos. Not just drama, Ishmael said, his voice sharpening alert. They're out looking for something, and we might be in their way. What do you mean? Tonja asked, instinctively moving closer to Ishmael as a squad of shadows materialized just behind him, looming figures clad in black jackets menacing but familiar. Fate might have intervened, Ishmael replied, grinning slightly as he pushed off the wall, his presence now an anchor amidst impending chaos. But it looks like we're going to need all the allies we can get. Are you ready to dive in, or are you going to stand there questioning me all day? Tonja took a deep breath, the scent of asphalt and promising rain tinged with exhilaration. Let's see where this leads. And together, stepping into the unknown, they turned to face the oncoming storm. Scene 103, Threads Untangled. A heavy storm brews outside the sleek glass facade of the Quantico precinct. The sky bruised gray as raindrops begin to pound against the windows like anxious fingers. Inside, the scent of strong coffee and damp earth mingles with the faint sterility of the investigation room, layered over with the whisper of tension as detectives huddle around a central table strewn with case notes, photographs, and the haunting image of a victim. Tonja Coleman stands at the heart of the chaos, her athletic frame taut as she analyzes the evidence.